Here's a different view of the cold start. This is hard to see in that last one. Now it clears up. That's valve seals. Here's the 2003 Honda Civic, 1.7 liter. Not sure what I'm going to do with it yet, but it's got bad oil burning. I know these are oil burners, but it's like 2 to 3 liters a week. Valve seals. I'll put a clip of the car at cold start. But right now it's got something on the stick, but I just wiped it a second ago. Let's check this. Put that in there, pull it out, and we got nada. Nothing. So first thing I'm going to do is a compression test, and if the compression test doesn't come back good, I'm going to source out a used head and rebuild the head and then swap it over. Just about 170. That's pretty good. 175. 170 on number 3. One more to go. Before I do that, listen to this. A couple hundred crows just flew in over here. They're sitting in the trees. That's neat. And almost 170 on number 4. So that's pretty good. I'm going to go with, let's just change the valve seals. I'll check the valve guides once I take the valve cover off and get in there. I don't have a hoist, which is no big deal. That's what I like to do. I got these 6-ton jack stands. They're just a little bit higher. They got a little bit wider base. Makes it a little bit more solid, and that way your little jack stand isn't maxed out. I like to have it nice and high. That way you're not bending over. I'm working here without bending over. It makes it nice when you're working on the cylinder head. And then I'm going to be taking this tire off to go through the wheel well to turn the engine over by hand as I work on the timing chain, the valve seals, the valves, etc. So it's got a nice height there where I can slip underneath there with my creeper. The jack stands are all nice and solid, and I'll put a block behind that wheel and put the e-brake on, just for safety's sake. And I got this light here. It's attached with some zip straps and some cloth and some vice grips, just to make it nice and bright. That way there's no shadows here. I can see everything that's going on. And now I'm gonna start taking the valve cover and the wiring harness off, the intake, the air filter, etc., etc. And I'll probably change the timing belt while I'm in there too. Next, took out a couple bolts there, 10 bolts on the valve cover, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Move the wiring harness over. The reason I don't record this is because 1, I like to listen to music, and 2, I use air tools and they're very loud and you wouldn't be able to hear anything anyway. So I might put it in not slow motion, the other one, and record it. Oh, I see that something's melting down there. What is that? Huh. Next, I'm going to take off the rocker arms and this to get at the valves. And I'm not sure whether I'm just going to put rope in the cylinders or I might get a fitting to put air in the cylinders. And I've got the tire off here and the piece of plastic so I can get at the crankshaft bolt to turn over the engine. Because you got to make sure, whichever cylinder you're working on, that the valves are in the right place or the cam is in the right place, etc., etc. So I might time lapse. There it is. So I might put it on time lapse. I'm gonna charge up my battery first. If anybody wants to sponsor me some electric tools, that'd be super cool. Any sponsors? Just need sponsors. There's nobody watching my videos, so somebody forward this to somebody that might want to sponsor me some electric tools, and I'll do a review on them. So thank you very much for watching. If anybody's watching, then I take out these two bolts. I put the jack underneath the oil pan with a block of wood there, just to take up the weight. And I didn't jack it up, I just jacked it up so it relieves the weight off this motor mount. And then lift the motor mount out of the way. Let's take a look at this motor mount. Okay, put that out of the way over there on the table, because we need to get this timing cover off. That's why I took the motor mount off. And then there's a cam sensor here. Just unplug that. There's a little rubber seal. Pull that out. And then there's just a normal electric plug. And then there's 110, 210, 310. Your 210s. Ha! Relax, your 210s. And then pop this cover off. And there's 14 bolts. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. You don't have to take this one out. These are 10 mil, these are 12 mil, and just wiggle it back and forth like this and carefully lift it out. And here's a little tip. There's a plastic plug on this end. If you leave that plug and you put it right there, it keeps all the oil from dripping out of the head down the engine. So that's a little tip there. See how that plug moves? Try and just put it right in there. Okay. And now I'm going to remove the spark plugs and start stuffing rope in the cylinders. I don't know about anybody else, but this valve spring compressor is kind of hokey. So I'm going to remove the cam. I marked the timing belt and I marked the timing gear. So I'm just going to slide if you lift up on the cam, you can slide the timing belt off. So that's what I'm going to do to get more room. I'm going to say these have got to be the smallest keepers. There's my fingernail. There's my baby finger. So these are the smallest keepers I've seen. They're almost like motorcycle size. And there's the valve seal. That's what we're changing right there. This thing right there. I think I'm going to try and use these pliers to grip it and try and pull it out. But I'd love to record it, but I want to use both hands because I don't want to scratch the valve. So I'll let you know how that goes. Okay, I'm not going to lie, it's made me a little nervous, but the way I found to do it was you want to grab it closest to the top. So when it's sitting down like this, you want to grab it closest to the top. So if you grab it further down, it makes it harder to get off. And you want to be careful because you don't want to bend this tiny little valve here that's not very thick. So just be really careful. And I know it's frustrating and it doesn't feel like it wants to come off, and just wiggle it. I use needle nose vice grips and I just lightly wiggled it and twisted it and pulled straight up on it and got it off. I managed to get this valve spring to work, compressor to work. I know going back together is gonna be a different story. So I'm gonna try and get some grease. And sometimes if you put grease on the valve keeper, when you slide it in place, it'll work. or I've seen a plastic bag trick where you can just put plastic over top of the valve and push down and it'll work. So I'll let you know how that works too. Okay, this is the first time I've done this on a Honda 16 valve. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. On a 16 valve. And I'm not gonna lie, it's nothing you're gonna wanna rush. And I'm gonna put a little dot on the valve when it's done, just in case. But I would just say take your time. And what I found is when you get the valve keeper out, readjust this on the spring and get it as low as you can so you can get a little bit more compression. Getting them off is easier than putting them back on. But once you got the spring off, line up the spring so you can get more compression on it. So that way it makes it a little bit easier. I'll try and record one to show you what I mean. I don't know if this is gonna show up, but that's about as far as I go. And then push down on it. And there, I got both keepers off in one shot. Pull this off slowly. See how it's a little bit crooked? Once you get it off, you can readjust it so it's got a better grab, and it makes it easier for putting it back together. Let's try this one too. You grab right at the top of the valve, the keeper or the valve seal, and wiggle it just a little bit. No, see, it doesn't want to come either. Try tightening it just a little more. Still doesn't want to come up. Okay, I quit. Okay, I've tried, these are hose pliers. They're used for taking the hoses off. If you grab it like that, they're the smallest ones I have, and you wiggle it, or you try putting them this way and lifting up. You gotta be careful not to scratch the valve, which is, also another tip I heard was to try the, heat it up with the torch, and it melts the rubber. So maybe I'll try that one if they get stubborn, but I'm gonna use these pliers for now to get them off. I'd rather not use a torch. I don't know why, but maybe that's the best way. I don't know if you can see what's going on, but I got the keepers on there and I'm backing this off. And they should just fall into place if you have the spring compressor compressed enough. And it looks identical to the other one, so, and then sometimes they're a little tricky to get off too. There we go, and it's out. Yay. Wow, I'm not gonna lie, that's 2 done. Not very quick. These things here go on the valves there, and then this spring here, which barely stays in that thing, goes on top of it, and then these 2 tiny little pieces that are half the size of my little fingernail, you have to put them in there and then release the spring at the same time so that it doesn't fly apart. I've been on this for 4 hours, about 3 hours now, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 done. I have that many more to go. So I'm getting a little better at it, but it's very frustrating. And if I drop one of these things and lose it, the whole job is fucked. So I'm trying to concentrate. I love you. Talk to you later. Bye. Okay, I finished the first 4 valves. Seems like it took forever. I just started taking off this valve spring here, but don't get ahead of yourself. Oh shit. Yeah, I'm gonna have to turn it over to get the rope out. And I took the cam out. So I'll have to do it from, God damn it. Okay. Nice work. Okay. So I managed to get all the valve seals changed. There they are right there. One thing you gotta be careful is these springs when you're cranking them off. Springs on top. I wanna make sure you retrieve all of those and they don't get left behind. I might take my shop vac and just suck all this out and clean it. I'm gonna stop right here and carry on tomorrow. The reason I didn't record any of this is because I didn't lose any of these keepers. And I knew if I set up the camera to record it, one of them would go flying off and I'd lose it. So anyways, I'm happy at what I got done so far today. And everything went great. So let's see if I fix the smoking problem when we get this back together, or if I have to rebuild the head and put new valve guides in. Peace out. I got all the valve seals changed. They're all in. Now I've got to put the motor back together. So I'm going to do that tomorrow. I'm done for today.